All right. Hello, everyone. I think I got my camera issue sorted out from last time. I pressed something, I think, while I was going back and forth between the keys, and it actually swapped my camera input to like some old, I think the old camera I had. Somehow this Ecamm Live application still had that. So anyways, apologies that that got a little weird last time. Hopefully you can see me and hear me okay this time. But I'll try to avoid smashing those keys again. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what I'm building this time. So, oh, hey everybody, Francisco, Haas, Daryl, JT, Adrian, of course, always here. Cool. So yeah, oh good, I'm glad everybody enjoyed. Yeah, I'm glad you all enjoyed that series. I'm going to be writing a blog post about those dynamic workers, but more from like a business perspective and decisions around it. But those were fun. I'm glad everybody enjoyed those. And again, I feel like I did most of that code, minus the tests, of course. I did most of that code live, so you can watch those that three-part series, if you will, and kind of see everything. So. Okay, so this time, or this series, we'll see if it's 1, 2, 3, who knows. But if you've been watching some of those streams, you've heard me talk about, wanting, as I started to work with some of these APIs, it was like, oh man, I really wish I could just like copy this curl example and dump it into something, right? Much like you jump in like your JSON, JSON lint or whatever, like they have something on here where you can, dump it in here and you validate it, right? So like, not with all the crappy ads, but the point is, just these little online tools that sometimes you jump out to. So it'd be really cool to like take this, drop that into one of those online tool forms, and it gives you like the HTTP client version of this, right? Like HTTP get this, and then it has with authorization, and it dumps like token in there. Like that would be pretty awesome. I know someone has said they were working on one, or there's kind of one maybe out there. So if so, let me know before I start going multiple streams building this thing. But I just thought like it related to Shift, and it could be kind of cool to kind of have, again, as one of Shift's online tools. Like we have like this can I upgrade Laravel, and you kind of dump in your composer file and you can figure out, are your packages compatible with certain versions of Laravel, right? So a tool much like this, it's kind of under the Shift name, but again, maybe it's just a single page, a form, you click the button, convert, and it gives you a nice Laravel snippet instead. So here's just another thing, Mailgun. Again, very, very common to get like a curl example. If we go to Stripe, we're going to see these as well. Paddle, we're going to see these as well. Any API is going to have your classic curl example code here. And I just think it'd be really cool, again, to be able to copy this, dump it in to some little online converter, nothing crazy, super lightweight, and you paste it in there and you get it back. So let me know what you think about that in the chat, or if you feel like that exists somewhere and I'm totally missing something. But otherwise, I'm going to act like it doesn't exist, and we'll at least start to build the foundation today. So if someone's watching the stream and, hey, this thing's already exists over here and it's really cool already, just let me know, and I'll do a different stream next week. So with that said, again, hopefully everybody can see me and hear me in the chat. It looked like we had like a drop-off of people there, so I'm not sure if I did something or what, but anyway, looks like some people are back now, so who knows. Hey Tina, how's it going? All right, so I just brought up a new Laravel application. So again, I haven't made a new app in a long time, so I just kind of went into the docs. I ran this command. I did a get init, and there it is. So anyway, so there it is. Here's our examples. This is a pretty difficult example here. We could start with a real basic example. So cool. Good idea. That's a cool idea. Sounds cool. Don't know anything like it. Cool. JT can hear you. Okay, cool. Great. Everybody can hear me. And it sounds like people, at least the people on the stream, have not heard of this before. So let's bring up PHP Storm and start coding. Now, while all this is firing up, I gave this a little bit of thought about how I would want to go about kind of building this, right? And I think there's like a crazy approach here, okay? So let's map this and curl converter. There it is, project root. I always, I like PHP Storm. I've stuck with it, but some of these things where like you set up new projects, it's like 8 clicks. Like just let me paste a link or a path and start it up. So anyway, this is a brand new, fresh Laravel project. So let's go back and look at one of these curl examples, and I'll probably start by like writing some fixture test cases or something. But this is a command. It's a curl command, of course. So immediately when I was thinking about a curl command, I thought, well, why don't we just make a command in Laravel, right? If you made a Laravel command, and we could even go so far as to call it curl, if you will, or like whatever, and you could write out all of the different options that you're able to kind of pass into it. So then the reason I'm thinking, it sounds crazy, but the reason I'm thinking of taking that approach is it gives me a really cool, I don't want to use the word API, but it gives me a cool set of methods built into a command that allow me to parse the input very, very easily, right? I don't have to go build a command parser, so I think, it's going to pair up like these options with values. I just think it's going to do a really good job of that, and I don't have to worry about building all that because it already exists, within Laravel, and then underneath, of course, Symfony. Now, I probably could dig around in Symfony and figure out how to, use it directly instead of writing a command, but like, just to hack on this for a second, this could be a super, super simple application where like in here somewhere, it's basically just like, I could get like the command and I could call artisan, call here and kind of pass it like the request input curl command effect. Like I would just send it straight down into this artisan call, and artisan itself is going to return, maybe this doesn't return, 0 or something. I kind of hack it to return JSON or something. And from there, I could like rebuild the HTTP, call, right? I don't know. It's just a thought, but I don't know how far that would get me. I don't know if it's going to save me a lot of work necessarily. I mean, to tokenize this is not hard, but to tokenize it and then match up all of these different options with, optional values and whatever, that starts to get a little tricky. That's going to be a lot of if statements. It's going to be a lot of syntax parsing. It's going to be a lot of checking. Those are the pieces that are really cool and I think I would get for free. So it sounds crazy, but I think my initial approach is going to be to create a curl command inside of Laravel as a Laravel command and effectively call it via artisan call, and allow it to parse and give me back certain bits of data, right? Now, again, I don't know if an artisan command can actually return something, but I could always like put it in the cache and get it back out or something. It's, it's not a big deal. Let's just try it, and let's start with like some super simple things, because once we prove the concept that artisan command is able to kind of work and parse this the way we want, it's really just a matter of looking at like the man page for curl and building out all the various, options. So I haven't written a command from scratch in a while, so let's go out to the Laravel docs, artisan command, or I think they call it console command, yeah. So let's go take a look at these commands. So of course I can generate one, but they kind of give me one here, so hey, why not? Let's just copy this. I wish this little button was a bit cleaner. There we go. Okay, so let's go up here, console, commands. We'll just say new PHP file, and this will be under commands, I think. And we'll call this curl command. Why not? Don't ask me again. All right, let's get some real estate here. Okay, so we have app console commands. We're not going to need any user stuff. We get this. This is going to be called curl command. I don't like any of the doc block stuff. Again, we could just flat out call this curl, and this would be like the URL, and that's kind of your most basic format. Let's see. Wrapper for Unix curl command. Or, well, it's not really wrapper. Parser. Parse Unix curl command. Great. All right. And then here we go. We handle it. We don't need any dependency injection here. And yeah, this is going to be the hard stuff now. So I'm wondering if the signature, if I got to write everything up here in the signature, or if there's still that kind of old school way where I can define options a little bit lower. So let's kind of take a look at this. Type hinting. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. Defining input. Here we go. Okay, so we have arguments. We're always going to want the URL. It's not necessarily optional. Optional arguments be all about you. Nope. Okay, we have options. Options are like arguments, are another form of input. Options prefixed by 2 hyphens when provided there are 2 options, those that receive a value and those that don't. Great. Okay. Let's take a look at an example. Okay, so that's a switch. All right, otherwise the value will be false. Okay, options with value, --q equals. In this example, I wonder if they have to do 2 dashes always. Option shortcuts. Hey, look at this, perfect. Okay, cool. When assigning a shortcut, okay, so here's what we want. How do you know if it takes a value or not? Oh, you just, okay, so if it expects a value, the user must specify a value for an option. You should suffix the option with a equal sign. Awesome. Okay, so let's start building all of these. So we would have like --x or -x equals get. Okay, so that's our very basic bit there, right? So again, we're just going to try to make this one from scratch ourselves right here. So we have -h would be another one. So let's kind of do that. And -h equals, there is no default necessarily here. And let's go actually bring up the man curl page real fast and see. Let's just see like if header has like a --. Yeah, it does. So -- header. So let's see that we can kind of support everything that we're going to need to support here. So I think Laravel said we can write it that way. So option shortcuts. When invoking the command, option shortcut should be prefixed with a single hyphen. Perfect. Okay, so you can say -h or header, right? And then ultimately you would need to pass in the URL. Okay, cool. So what we could do here, what are these named? I guess what's the longhand, if you will, for -x? Where's $X? -- request. Ooh, that's crazy. All right. So this is or request. So you can say -x or request. All right, cool. Okay, so what we can do here real quick is we could just like var dump, var dump this option request, and we can do this, or well, I don't know why we need to var dump it. We could just dump it. Let's stick with Laravel, and we'll say header, and then we'll say argument is URL. So let's see if this can, if given this command, again, I'll pre-parse it, but just if we dump this out in our little application, maybe I should change the name to something here. curl. Let's call it Lurl. Laravel's curl command. All right. So I'm going to need to fire up Docker. We'll see if we can run this command, and we'll see if we can dump out each one of these individual pieces. And then maybe what I'll do is maybe we'll kind of quickly parse out this authorization one, because again, you could send in multiple headers. So like I wonder what that starts to look like, right? And maybe Laravel covers that too. Input arrays, option arrays, there you go. So star, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so really there's not one of those, but there would be star on header, right? And I wonder what that's going to look like when I ask for that. Maybe it just gives you an array. Oh, Docker, you are firing up, aren't you? All right, let's bring up the shift runner, and we'll say PHP artisan, and we should see Lurl in here somewhere if we scroll up. Yep, there's Lurl. All right, so we should be able to parse. We should be able to parse this command effectively without that line break. So let's just kill that line break real fast. We'll just kind of dump this in here, get rid of that, and we'll call this Lurl. And let's see if it can handle this. Let's just get rid of that for convenience. Let's see if it can handle this. All right, so we've got Lurl, PHP artisan Lurl. I guess we could have left it called curl because it's always going to be called through artisan, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, let's see if we can run this. Okay, so we have get in our dump. We have an array, just like we thought, of authorization headers, and then finally the URL. So again, I didn't have to write any parsing for that other than just to start to figure out this. So it's really going to be just a matter of kind of slowly reading through this and getting the most common options people would have. And then of course, I'm going to miss a few, but people can, find those or whatever. And I'll probably just make this an open source repo so people can submit pull requests to it when maybe it doesn't parse something that it needs to. So, I don't expect it to be perfect right away. Let's, to that point though, let's throw this like a -s for silent and kind of see what happens. So the -f option doesn't exist. Okay, so I will need to ultimately support all options, but the point is that it will throw an error if something's not there. I could catch that error and I could say something like, hey, please open a PR, or hit me up on Twitter or whatever, let me know this option doesn't exist. It should be super simple to go back in here and at least add it so it silently doesn't fail, right? But beyond that, this Lurl actually totally works the way we want it to, right? So what we would do now is effectively build up some kind of, pending object. It doesn't even need to be a pending object. That's a bit fancy. We really just need some kind of DTO, right? Some kind of data object, some plain old PHP data object to kind of encapsulate what this curl command's actually, like what request it's actually making, right? And then from there, I could write some kind of formatter that takes that object and then turns it into an HTTP call. So let's build those two pieces. We're just going to keep spiking again, just like I did in part 1. We're just going to keep spiking on this. And from there, I can backfill some tests and go ahead and make the repo public. And, those that are following along on this stream, if you want to add more options for me or whatever before next week's stream, like that's awesome, right? So let's go another, 15, 20 minutes, and let's kind of start building up, again, the fundamental pieces of this. That way, if other people want to contribute, it's there and available. Okay, so at a high level, what we're going to want to do here is parse options into a temporary object, we'll say. I just think it's going to be easier to work with than just some kind of like raw PHP array. The only problem with that, though, is, again, handle can't really I don't think handle can return like object. Can it? Can handle like return something? Let's test that. I don't think handle actually returns to the calling code. I really don't think it does. Let's get into PHP artisan tinker, and we can kind of test this by saying artisan call class call. We would say lurl and https laravelshift.com. Yeah, see, it just gives me back 0. It doesn't actually return that object. So let's just make that a little more clear. Oh well, crap. You gotta refresh tinker. Yeah, so again, it just gives us 0. There's no way for me to share, not that there's no way, but it's not going to be that easy for me to take an object and like put it into the cache. I mean, I assume it gets serialized by PHP, so if it's a plain old PHP object, it's not that big of a deal. But maybe it is easier just to keep this some kind of JSON object. I'm just thinking out loud here. Parse into JSON string. Put string in cache. I don't know. Let's dig around in command just for 1 second. I don't know if I'm curious. I'm just curious if there is some kind of like parser here that like, maybe I can just get access at like Symfony's parser directly. I don't know if, what's this call thing do? Container call. No, that's not it. Yeah, that's not a bad plan to write. All right, okay, so sorry. Adrian's saying in the chat, you could just write it. You could just output it from the command and then catch that output. Yes, maybe. I wonder if artisan call is, yeah, it is. Okay. So we can definitely parse out the options. We don't need to worry about that. I'm just wondering if artisan call has passing array values. No. I was just wondering if this artisan maybe took an additional command to like, I don't know, get some information. Yeah, we could potentially output it, but how would I get that? Would that go to like one of PHP's input buffers? What would that look like? Would that be like artisan call and then like command equals it's like, what do they have like a file? What do you do, like PHP input or something? Or do they have one? Do they have like an std in or std out? I don't know how you would, I guess I don't know how you would like read that. You know what I mean? Is that too fancy? That's weird. I'm not sure how to capture that other than like output buffering or something like you could do. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could output buffer it. Maybe artisan fake. No. So anyway, I think we're getting a little sidetracked here. Let's we could definitely share it, but I think maybe putting it into an object is potentially maybe a bit premature. What we're really using the command for is to parse everything. Now, yes, ideally it'd be great if it gave us back an object, but it wouldn't really be that hard to take the data we got back and then store it in a way. Or maybe the cache can serialize the object, because again, it's just going to be a plain old PHP object, so like it's not a huge deal. But anyway, let's not worry about that too much. Let's let's just kind of start to think about the structure of this object, right? So let's just say, I'm just going to call this like JSON for now. And it's really just an empty array. And then we know for a fact that we would have like, let's just start thinking of the things we know we would have. So we would have method, and that would be this argument, or sorry, option, request. I wish they called that method. And then we know we would have URI, and that would be this argument, URI. Is that true? Artisan call command input params output buffer. Does it really have that? That's cool. Yeah, if so, then I'll just dump this as JSON, and I don't have to worry about like putting it in the cache or anything weird like that. So yeah, I think that's absolutely a good idea. We'll say headers, and then let's say params. And headers for now is just going to be an array, and params will also just be an array. Okay, so let's get it parsing at least these 4. There are, of course, crazy amounts of other options, timeout and this and that, but I think these are kind of the core ones that you're going to want to see, at least initially, to kind of have this be any kind of usable. So what we can do with headers is, if we go back and look, this is just array 0. So I think it would probably be nice to parse these out, but again, I don't want, maybe that's where the object comes into play. I don't want the command to necessarily be responsible for quote unquote parsing the actual values. At least I don't think so. So for those reasons, I would actually just say this option header here. And then let's figure out params. I think params come in 2 forms. Params can come in -d, which is going to be 100 times on this page. So hopefully these are in alphabetical order. Here we go, -d or -data, send specific data to post in the same way, browser, blah, blah, blah. So I think this is the same as data ASCII, to post data purely binary. Okay, fine. -d. If any of these options is used more than once, the data pieces specifiers are merged together, separated with an and. All right. If you start the data with ampersand, I don't think we have to worry about that. Okay, so basically you can pass this multiple, or you can pass a D and then put the ands in kind of together, right? So that's a little bit interesting. Yeah, exactly. So you can do -d, or you could do -d and then this, and put the ampersand in yourself, and it kind of figures it out. So let's make sure that we support data. So let's bring up -d or data, and that can be a star. But if we go back and look at this, this has D, and it has just your raw JSON, so that's something else, again, that we would want to parse and consider. But if we go look at this actually has a -f, which I think is a shorthand for form parameters, or it triggers something else. So let's look at that. I think, yeah, here we go. -f is a form parameter. This lets you set a filled-in form in which the user press the submit button. This causes the post to do multi-part form data. There it is. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. It's kind of interesting that they have. So you can do them, I guess, colon separated. Yeah. Maybe? Or no, type is, that's weird. That's weird that you can set those. That might be difficult to, that might be difficult to parse out. Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure the difference of when you would use those, but clearly, even just in the two API examples that we're looking at, they kind of differentiate those. So I'm gonna call this one data, and I'm gonna call this one data, and I'm gonna call another one fields. And again, these might not be the right naming convention. I can change that later, but let's go. They called it form. So let's go back and put this in here as well. So that would be dash dash form, and again, you can have optionally multiple of those. And let's just separate that out by form. So I'm thinking like form fields or request data. I don't know. Request fields, or I don't know. It's kind of weird. Let's just start with that though. And let's return JSON. Haha! JSON encode JSON. All right. We don't need to put it in the cache. So there's definitely like, you know, more options. Map more options. So the parsing so far is pretty straightforward, but again, we're taking some shortcuts on these for now. But let's keep going to see artisan. Let's bring in artisan and let's see array parameters none, and then output buffer. Output buffer. Let's see what this is about. I'm trying to think of a quick way in which I could call this. Null or Symfony output buffer. Do I have to pass in? I think I would have to pass in one, I guess, of an output interface. Ugh. What's output? What's output? That's interesting. Does output like give me the last run command? Get the output from the last run command. Hey, look at that. It does. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I think we're onto something here. All right, so let's go back into Tinker. Let's call our thing. Oh, URI argument doesn't exist. Whoops, what did I mess up? Let's go back here. Oh, I called that URI. URL. All right, let's try that again. So let's run this. It's going to return 0, but now I should be able to say artisan output, and it gives me an empty string. What did I break? Curl command, JSON encode. Oh, we're not actually returning that. Sorry. We never output it. We need to output it now. So this would be like this, output that. Why doesn't it like output? Why did you allow me to say it if it's not? Would you say line? I just want to like raw output something. I guess line. I don't know. I don't know what the raw output would be, but we'll try this again. So we're going to call it. It says 0. That's fine. We're going to get the output, and there it is with a new line. So I probably don't want to say line. I'm sure there's like a raw version of this, so we could probably just find that. So let's just say output, command IO, writing output. Let's see here. What's the right thing you could say? You might have to get like, I could just trim it. It's not a huge deal, but I think we're on the right track there. Let's see what else we got. Request params sounds better. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I think we don't even have to go so far as to make an output buffer. I think we're just going to be able to call artisan output to get what we need. So just to kind of continue messing with this, we would call this with the input of the curl command, and then we would basically get the JSON from the artisan output. And then here we would want to parse into object, or let's just call it a DTO, part, turn into object and then format as HTTP call. So it's pretty straightforward. It's really just like parse, input, output. So yeah, or analyze instead of parse. I mean, whatever you want to call it. But I think these are the next steps. So the next steps would be something along the lines of like some kind of super simple like parser or something, or it's like you don't even need to have artisan output. So let's just write some like pseudocode that we would want here. We would basically say something like we would have something like request object or something, or like I don't want to say request. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to call it here. We'll just say example request. We can say from or create from. It doesn't even need that. And then we can actually just take this artisan output, because again, we don't, well, we should probably trim that. We saw that that was an issue. So we'll say JSON whatever. So we have like this example request, and this is going to return, the request, and then here we would turn that into like the HTTP layer by saying same thing, like HTTP code create from request. And that's smart enough to kind of look at this request object. It can ask it all the questions it needs to ask. And then from there, we would just kind of like dump that out. So it's like HTTP writer. These are terrible names, by the way. And then it's like format HTTP or something along those lines. And this is our actual code. And this is where we would like return code. Now we're not going to return code. We're going to, have a blade template and do all this. But this is basically what the controller or the router, whatever endpoint would do. And so here we would basically say like view, whatever index, because it's all just a single page. We would just kind of resubmit that back to itself, in this case with the code. And we would have like curl would be, the curl command that came in, of course, or just old, if you will. And then we would have like the HTTP code, and that would be code. So yeah, whoops, forgot that. So again, this is all kind of wishful programming here, terrible names, but this is kind of what we're after, and I think we're in a pretty good place. So let's just say something here, like request. I'll have to build the form and some stuff like that offline, but just to kind of get the proper highlighting here. Okay, so we come in with a request. We would call artisan with that. We probably would need to like handle any parse errors here, right? So we might want to wrap that in like a try catch. So we could do something along those lines. But the point is, if that artisan call was successful, then we know that we would have this JSON output. We would trim it, create some kind of request object out of it, and then we would create some kind of HTTP call out of that as well, and then effectively take that HTTP thing and turn it into a writer. Now, I don't know, in fairness, I don't know if this is necessary, these two objects might end up being one and the same. But for now, I just, again, kind of flowing down the line here. I would want something that would turn it into a request object, and then taking that request object, I could build an HTTP call, right? And then once I kind of have that HTTP object, we could go from there. So, okay. What is going on? 69 mega. Later. I see why people do the I see why people do that now. Anyway, or sorry, I see why people do the subscribers only can comment in the chat. I haven't had that happen before though. That's funny. I guess I'm moving up in the streaming ranks. Okay, so anyway, let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think let's stop there. I'm gonna maybe build out some of these classes, or at least wrappers for these. I'm gonna come up with some better naming on these over lunch. Let me answer some things in the chat here. JT, are you gonna open source this right away so we can contribute? Probably not right away. This is all pretty broken, so probably not right away, but probably in the next day or two. I just want to get some example classes in here and like some pseudocode so people can get a feel for like how the project behaves and what it looks like, because otherwise I think I'm going to get a big mess of PRs and it's just going to be a waste of everyone's time. It's going to be a waste of the contributors' time, and it's going to be a waste of my time like closing them or trying to educate them on like how I want to build this. So this needs, long story short, this needs more structure before I would feel comfortable putting it out there. So, but if you know more options, you know exactly what we're typing here. So if you know these, like just send them to me on Twitter or whatever in a DM. Like feel free to write more there if you want. This is a good project for TDD. I'm not too worried about that right now. I definitely will backfill some tests because we know what input and output we should have from all of these. So there will definitely be tests added to this. But right now, again, I'm just kind of spiking to see, does using a command, does using this, that might feel a little foreign to people, but I think it's kind of genius, to be honest. Like, I don't have to do any parsing. Like, imagine how annoying parsing all those like -f data options would be if I didn't get to leverage this syntax. I mean, we have really the hardest part of this, the parsing, in my opinion, built in less than an hour. So, and because we're just leveraging Artisan, so that's pretty cool. And this is super easy to contribute to the point. Like you can just go in here and add more options, and you build the proper thing here. Now we may end up doing some more parsing, but the point is, it's pretty nice. So, have you checked packages for a existing curl parser? No, I haven't. Have you, Adrian? Can you post on Twitter when you do? I'll turn on notifications there so I can help. Yeah, sure. Again, if you have immediate options that exist and you want to kind of write those out, feel free to, again, just DM them to me. But yeah, I didn't look at packages for a curl parser. Again, I'm sure something out there exists. I'm just not aware of it. And if nothing else, this has been a fun hour to use to build. The problem is like PHP has its own like curl curl commands as well. So a lot of times when I did like curl and PHP or curl parser PHP, like it just sent me to all those, functions that exist in the language. So like that was kind of hard. But I'm sure there, yeah, here you go. Here's a decent one here. Parser for curl command line. What does this do? Let's just see what this does real quick. Curl parser, require that, take that. Oh, see, yeah, okay, so this does kind of parses things out. Body, get body. Yeah, that's kind of nice. Yeah, I mean, this is really this intermediate object that I'm really talking about, this parsed object that they're using here. This is exactly what I'm going to build next in this example request object. That's really what parsed is. I'm going to be able to say like, get me this URI, get me this method, get the body, get the headers, and it's going to give me all this stuff. So this is cool that they kind of have that. It's much more lightweight. And of course, since it is, it hasn't been updated in a long time, but neither has the curl command, in fairness. So like, I don't know, does it make sense to use this and then go ahead and have this object and I don't have to use Artisan? Like, I don't know. Artisan's kind of cool though, because again, this is for Laravel developers, so it's kind of like, I think the Laravel developers are going to be a lot more comfortable going in and adding options to this that don't exist than they would be kind of digging around this, PRing this library, waiting for that PR, bumping it in my package. Like, I don't know. I just don't know if I want to take on this dependency. So that returns a PSR request, which is what Laravel HTTP returns under the hood. Yeah, again, this could get lined up, but there's nothing in Laravel that like generates the HTTP client call, right? So even though, this is kind of neat that it is somewhat modern in that sense, I don't think it's going to take us too much more time to get to this parsed place. So keep this in the back pocket for now. I think we keep hacking the way that we have here. This really doesn't need to be called Laravel anymore, because again, it's always going to be underneath PHP, underneath Artisan. So I think that's fine. So let me kind of focus on this for a little bit. I'm going to get that package out there underneath Laravel, or I'll create a new repo underneath Laravel Shift, and I'll reply to my thread about this on Twitter when that's available. So probably before the weekend, I think this will be there. And we'll plan on, of course, doing a stream next week to kind of craft this out a little bit more. There's still a lot to do. This needs to get turned into whatever. I got to build the form. I got to build the view. I got to do the validation, the error handling. So there's a lot that is going to end up needing to go into this. So it'll probably be another two or three parts. So with that said, thanks everybody for joining live. Glad you all enjoyed. Thanks for all the ideas. Again, if you stumble upon something that already exists, or you think you can write this faster than next week, by all means do it and let me know about it. Otherwise, we'll keep hacking on this, and I'll get that project out there so other people can contribute. Thanks everyone.